Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for the Historic Resource Commission meeting, which is being held remotely. My name is Annie Murphy, and I am the staff for the Historic Resources Commission. Today's date is January 11th, 2021, and the time is 9:32. I hope that everyone was able to connect to the hearing through the Teams live event link posted on the Planning Department webpage. For those of you at home who are viewing this hearing or who may wish to participate in the hearing, I wanted to take a moment to explain the technology. The HRC is now using an updated version of Teams for remote public meetings. If you have access to a computer with a microphone, you can watch, listen, and provide comments on the agenda items through your computer. If you do not have access to a computer with a microphone and wish to provide comments, you must call in by dialing 916-318-9542. When prompted, enter the collaboration code on your screen. The phone number and meeting code are also provided on the screen once you begin the login process. If you are participating by phone, you must also mute the sound on your computer. For each agenda item, the chair will provide time for public comments. To comment using your computer, the chair will ask callers to remotely raise their hand. This will indicate to us that there's a member of the public who wishes to comment. To raise your hand, click on the open hand symbol at the top of your screen. When the moderator announces your name or phone number, click on the microphone button to the a few icons to the right of the hand to unmute your computer and provide your comment. Please state your name and proceed with your comment. At the end of your comment, your microphone will return to being muted. As in a physical meeting, each person is provided 3 minutes to comment on each agenda item. If you no longer have a comment or question, please click on the hand symbol to lower your hand. For those who will be providing comments by phone, the chair will also ask if anyone participating by phone would like to comment. If you wish to provide a comment by phone, enter *6 to unmute your phone. You will be called upon to comment and will be provided 3 minutes to provide your comment. If at any time you have difficulty connecting to the Teams live event or calling in through the phone line, please email Natisha Williams, our meeting moderator, at natisha.williams@santacruzcounty.us, and that's spelled Natisha. So it looks like we are situated now, and we will move on to the first agenda item, and I will turn the meeting back to the HRC Chair, Linda Phillips.
Just a sec. Thought I had my phone turned off, but it wasn't. All right, so the meeting has been called to order. Annie has run through the housekeeping for our virtual attendees. So I'm now going to call the roll call. Commissioner Miriam? Commissioner Orlando?
Here.
Commissioner Perlman?
Here.
Commissioner Swift?
Here.
Commissioner Phillips? Here. We have all commissioners in attendance. Agenda item number 2, approval or modification of the agenda. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, thank you, Chair Phillips. I am recommending that we move agenda item 8C, the update on the Seabreeze Tavern, to appear as agenda item 5A after the public communications. This will enable the county building official, Marty Heaney, to be available for questions from the commission and the public on this item. I'm hoping that he will be able to join us this morning.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the January 11th, 2021 agenda with agenda item 8C moved and renumbered as agenda item 5A?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, and that was Alberta?
Yes,
Okay, and do we have a second?
Wait a second. Are we approving the agenda or are we approving the minutes?
No, the agenda. The
Okay,
movement.
Alberta just said approving minutes.
So you're going to second it?
Okay, I'm going to second approving the agenda, yes.
Okay. So we will now vote to approve the motion. Commissioner Merriman?
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando?
yes,
Commissioner Perlman?
Yes,
Commissioner Swift?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. The motion to approve the agenda is passed. We're at agenda item number 3, approval of minutes from the meeting of October 14th, 2020. Are there any modifications to the October 14th, 2020 meeting minutes? Commissioner Merriman?
Yes.
So you have a change or a modification to the minutes?
No, I don't.
Okay. Commissioner Orlando?
yes,
No. Do you have any modifications to
no,
the agenda?
no.
Okay, because the only two I can see are Alberta and Barry. I can't see Susie or Carolyn, so I have to call.
That's weird.
So, so Commissioner Perlman,
no changes, approve as,
okay. And Commissioner Swift, do you have any modifications to
No.
the agenda? Okay, and neither do I. So do we have a motion to approve the October 14th, 2020 meeting minutes?
so moved. Perlman,
Okay, so Barry's making the motion. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll make a second.
Okay, Alberta? All right, so we're now voting on the motion to approve the October 14th, 2020 meeting minutes. Commissioner Merriman?
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando?
Yes,
Commissioner Perlman?
yes.
Commissioner Swift?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. Agenda item number 4, declaration of ex parte communications. Does anyone have any communications they would like to share with the commission?
Well, I guess I would name that my committee, our subcommittee for the Robert Merriman project, has been working since the last meeting continually, and you will see the results in the following part of the agenda.
And we look forward to hearing your report.
So do
All
I.
right.
I look forward to sharing it with you.
All right, since there's no one else, we'll move down to agenda item number 5, public communications. I would first like to open this up for to the public. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment on items not appearing on this agenda?
And if I could just comment, if you do wish to comment, please click on the hand symbol at the top of your screen, and that will let us know that you have a comment, and then we will call on you to provide your comment.
Hello, this is Becky Steinbrunner coming on the phone. How do telephone participants indicate that we want to get in the line? I just unmuted myself, but what's the proper procedure?
Yes, that's fine. You can unmute yourself and let us know that you wish to make a comment, and then we will call on you. And if you do have a comment now, we can go ahead and take your comment.
Oh, thank you. Good morning and Happy New Year to you all. I really want to thank you all for your good work, especially the ad hoc committee that's been working on the Merriman House project mural. My name is Becky Steinbrunner, and I have a couple of things I would like to bring before you. I was not given a chance to comment on the minutes, but I do want to ask if the minutes were sent out earlier or soon after the last meeting, as was requested by commissioners at the last meeting. I also want to comment on my own correspondence that's listed there, and it does not include the date of which I sent it. In it, I refer to today's paper, but there's no date on my letter. That was an email dated January 1st. The other piece of correspondence likewise has no date. So I would like to request that future correspondence from the public include the date that they have sent it. Also not included in my correspondence was the attachment showing the picture in the newspaper of the legal notice in the newspaper that only appeared in the newspaper, the Santa Cruz Sentinel, on January 1st. So I think that needs to be added in, and I request that it do be added. Let me know if you don't have it, and I will send it again. I am concerned on a different topic about the Redmond Hirahara House in Watsonville. I'm sure anybody passing by is really, who cares about this property, is very shocked by the continued state of neglect that the owners are allowing. And it disturbs me greatly because I know the story of that. And recently there was a local, an article in the local paper about all of the marvelous buildings that William Weeks designed and are in our community. The Redmond Hirahara House was not included. And I think that was intentional because nobody really wants to draw attention to the counties allowing this neglect.
You have 30 seconds
by
left
neglect.
for your
Thank you.
comment.
Demolition by neglect to continue. Your commission took action to promote and get approved a demolition by neglect ordinance, and that has not been finalized. I realize maybe the county really doesn't see it as a priority, but for those of us in the community that do care, especially the incredible story behind this house and the community rallying behind the Hirahara family to keep it in their family while they were interred, really needs to be told. And this house needs to be preserved, at least having tarps on the roof. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you, Becky. I believe we have Vanessa.
Vanessa, did you have a comment? I think.
I don't see any
No, I have
hands
no
raised.
comment.
Okay, thank you.
What is your comment?
She doesn't have a comment. Pardon? Vanessa does not have a comment.
Oh, she doesn't. Oh, okay. Okay, because her hand was up. All right, is there any other public comments before we move on to the next agenda topic?
Linda, Linda, this is Barry.
Yes.
Is it okay for us to make factual input on comments that were just made?
Yeah, yes, the
Okay,
commission.
then,
yeah,
Ms. Steinbrunner, I would like to share with you that I am looking at a copy of your letter from January 1st to Annie, and the copy sent to me by Annie does have the date on it of Friday, January 1st at 11:38 p.m. So you may have missed that. It's at the top of the page, but in fact, I was informed of the date and time of the receipt of your January 1st letter. So just a small point, but I appreciate your clarifying, so I need to chip in my position.
If I could comment, I believe that inadvertently for the correspondence added to the planning department agenda materials, that I may have copied her comment as a Word document.
My letter does not have a date on it, and I am clicking on the copy of my letter included in the correspondence link at the bottom of the agenda. There is no date on it.
Well, on
And
my
the
copy, my copy's an email, and it does absolutely. It says from Becky Steinbrunner, ki6tkb@yahoo.com, Friday, January 1st, 2021 at 11:38. So we have different information.
If I can please clarify, excuse me, if I can please clarify, this is Annie's staff, and I believe that inadvertently I may have copied the email correspondence as a Word document when I posted the materials online rather than copying the whole email. This was not intentional. So in the future, I can certainly provide the entire email as an attachment that will include the date of the correspondence.
That sounds good.
Is there any other comments?
I don't see any hands raised right now.
All right, then let's move on to agenda item 5A, report on the recent fire at the Seabreeze Tavern, a designated historic resource located at 101 Esplanade in Aptos. And we'll start with the staff report.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Phillips. The Seabreeze Tavern is of local historic significance. Built in the Spanish Revival style, the building is significant as the last remaining building of the Rafael Castro Hotel and the only remaining commercial building from the Aptos Land Company that initiated the resort development in Rio Del Mar. As noted at the commission meetings in July and October, the building was severely damaged by fire in June. County is concerned that the condition of the building may threaten public health and safety. Next slide, please. Over the past 6 months, the county has repeatedly reached out to the property owner and informed them that they were required to remove the fire debris from the building interior and provide an engineer's report evaluating the structural stability of the building. To date, the owner has not completed debris removal and has not provided an engineer's report. As you can see in the photo, a tarp has been placed over the roof to prevent rain from accessing the building. And the building is once again for sale. Over the past 3 months, the building has continued to deteriorate. Our building official, Marty Heaney, is concerned that the stucco at the back wall may separate and fall from the building, which could result in injuries or property damage. This is a photo of the wall as it appeared in October and has since deteriorated since that time. Additionally, the department is concerned that toxic materials inside the building, including lead and asbestos, may enter the lagoon, causing environmental contamination. As noted in October, the Santa Cruz County Code authorizes the county to take such actions as necessary on historically designated sites, to protect the public from imminent danger and harm as determined by the building official. Such actions are limited to measures necessary to address the threat. Other than these emergency measures, the property owner of the CB's Tavern is required to comply with regulations for historic resources, which include a public hearing before your commission for approval of alterations, and a public hearing before your commission and the board of supervisors to consider applications for demolition of a historic resource. Working with county council, the planning department is preparing a new abatement order for the building that will apply to the current and any future owner. While committed to the preservation of historic resources, the county must also protect public health and safety. The abatement order will require securing the building from the elements, clearing out debris from inside the building, preventing contaminants from leaving the site, and providing a report from a structural engineer evaluating the stability of the structure, and also stabilizing the structure as needed. Were determined necessary by the building official to correct an unsafe or dangerous condition that constitutes an imminent threat, the order also authorizes demolition of the building. Such a determination would be made based upon analysis in the engineer's report stating that demolition is necessary to address an imminent threat and that lesser actions such as stabilizing walls or partial demolition are not sufficient to protect the public from danger. If the structural stability of the building deteriorates further and the building official determines that the building appears to pose an imminent threat, the order would also authorize the county to take such actions as needed absent an engineer's report, including demolition where necessary to protect the public. Next slide, please. The county will continue to keep your commission informed. No. Oh, can you go back one, please? There it is. The county will continue to keep your commission informed of the status of the building. Were the county required to take an action to protect public health and safety, the chair would be notified as soon as possible and would be provided an opportunity to respond, and would be provided with a minimum of 24 hours notice. And more time as soon as basically we know that we need to take action on the building. The county remains hopeful that the Seabreeze Tavern retains sufficient structural integrity that the building can be rehabilitated and once again become a community resource that helps to tell the story of the development of Rio Del Mar and the Rafael Castro family. And I don't know that Marty is with us today for questions. Oh, yes, he is in attendance for questions as well on the status of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Now we have a report from No. So is there any other comments? Do we have any comments or questions from the commission? I thought I saw Carolyn's hand go up. Can we scroll down a little bit?
I have a question. If I'm coming in by phone, and I'm not sure if this is a proper time, but I do have a question and comment.
Well, Becky, can you hold on just a second? Because I thought I saw Carolyn's hand go up, and I'm waiting for the names to scroll down to see if her hand is definitely up or not.
I do not see any hands raised, but you're right. I did see someone briefly raise their hand. If anyone in the commission would like to speak now, you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear it, Carolyn.
That's good. I was raising my hand. I have a couple questions. One is that I have a real difficulty, I'm having a really hard time hearing because there's this echo, and I have hearing aids, so I hear everything audibly. So could you sum up what you're saying is happening to the building? Is it going to be demolished? Is it going to be, are we waiting for more information? I'm just curious. Also, I noticed the building is for sale. It's been advertised and our neighbor went to look at it to see if he wanted to buy it. So is that going to be addressed?
Yes, so the building is for sale, that's correct. The county, we have been requiring the current owner to provide an engineer's report for the past 6 months. And in order to be able to do that, they need to clear out the debris inside the building so the engineer can access the building. And they have not yet completed the debris removal or provided an engineer's report.
They have not yet what?
They have not yet cleared out the debris from inside the building, and they have not provided the engineer's report.
Oh, okay.
So we are waiting for that report. We're hopeful that a new owner will take a more active interest in the building and complying with the county requirements. And so once we have that report from the engineer, then we can determine whether the building constitutes an imminent threat, what actions are necessary to protect the public. So, for example, the building official noted that the stucco at the rear of the building appears to be separating, so that action might be removing the stucco from the building. But if the engineer's report comes back and indicates that the structural members of the building appear to be unstable or some other condition, which the building official will probably elaborate on, that would indicate the building may be in danger of collapse, then the new abatement order would authorize the county to take action to demolish the building. But the action the county takes would be limited to whatever steps would be sort of the minimum required to protect public health and safety.
How does the sale of the property influence that? I mean, if the owner's going to sell it, is it going to be, if it's sold while you're waiting for these reports, how does that impact the building?
Well, the abatement order would carry through the sale, so it's attached to the property itself. So whoever purchases the building would be required to comply with that abatement order, including providing an engineer's report and stabilizing.
That's what I need to know.
Okay, sure.
So I have a question then to follow up with what you're saying. So if the property is sold, would one of the first things that would happen with the new owner come before the commission and talk to us about what the plans are, what they wanted to do, etc., or would we just be one point on a long checklist of what they would do?
It depends largely on the engineer's report. Like if the engineer's report determines that it needs to be demolished, that would happen first. But more likely would be that the engineer's report may say certain actions may need to be taken, like to stabilize, and then we would be notifying the chair of that. But at some point, they would need to come to the commission for review and approval of whatever they are proposing for the site.
Okay. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions or comments before I turn it over to public comments?
And we do have the building official standing by just in case anyone would like to ask the building official comments directly.
Okay, because I'm seeing flashing, so I don't know if that means anything
Yeah,
or not.
I don't think
No, okay.
I believe Becky Steinbrunner has unmuted herself. Did you want to provide some comment?
Yes, I do. Thank you. This is Becky Steinbrunner. I'm having a very difficult time hearing Miss Murphy and also Miss Phillips at times. There is a real echo in both of your voices on the telephone, and I don't have hearing aids, but I'm having a very difficult time, and I really sympathize with Commissioner Swift because this is difficult.
Excuse me,
I,
Becky,
Hello?
can I just, note that if you're participating by phone, you want to make sure that the sound on your computer is muted, because that may be the cause of the echo if you're participating by phone.
I couldn't understand what you said. Something about a problem with my phone?
Is there any way to turn our volume up?
So if you are participating by phone, Becky, you want to make sure that the sound on your computer is muted, because that can cause an echo if you're participating by phone and you have the sound on your computer turned on.
Oh, I have no sound on my computer at all. I'm just
Okay.
pure by phone, and I'm not able to see any of your slides that you just put up about the Seabreeze Hotel Tavern being for sale. But I will. I am curious why this got moved up from item 8 to item 5A under public comment. I thought that perhaps there was going to be a structural engineer or somebody that was waiting in the wings and had time constraints. It was the reason why this was moved up in the agenda. So I would like an explanation of that. But I am looking at the pictures on Zillow. As Commissioner Swift said, it is the Seabreeze Tavern is for sale, and it's for sale for $799,900. It shows several photos taken by what I think is a drone, and shows that the tarp on the roof has been torn, thereby allowing rainwater to come into the building and probably more likely cause effluent coming from the building that could contain toxins to cause a problem. So I will report it to County Environmental Health, and I hope that others do as well. But I'm concerned, did we ever get a fire investigation report for this structure? To me, I really suspected arson, and I am further concerned about that, especially given the sort of the tenuous state that it's in now. And now I think I heard you say that if at any time any county agent determines this is a threat to public safety, it could be demolished within 24 hours. So I'm concerned about this building. I'm concerned that it is now out of the hands effectively of the Historic Resources Commission and in the hands of public safety officers who may not see it in the same light as the commissioners do,
You have
and certainly
30 seconds
members
left.
of the public. I have driven by a number of times and did see the company working there, and I do believe that it has been cleaned. So I request that there be another follow-up report on that, because I do think that the owners have cleaned it with a environmental cleaning company, and they've done their best, but they do need to repair the tarp on the top. Thank you very much.
So we do have one guest, Martin, who, from which department? A building official. Do you have any information regarding our discussion and some of the questions that you can provide?
As far as in general, or are there specific questions?
Well, for example, Becky was mentioning about the tarp, that it was torn and water was going inside.
Yeah,
And that she was under the impression that there had been cleanup going on inside.
right. Let me tell you what I know. I was out there on Wednesday and took some more pictures of all four sides of the building. They do have wattles down to try to contain any rainwater that might get out, but I'm not sure how effective those would be because they're really not installed correctly as we prescribed them to be installed. They're just laying on the concrete sidewalks. So as far as the tarp, I can't see the top of the building from down on the street, obviously. And I can see the edges of the tarp as I go around the building taking some photos. The stucco on the back appears to have separated a little bit from the structure. Appears to me when I look at my October picture compared to my January picture, they're slightly different. As far as the cleaning is concerned, the holdings company was cleaning it out, and they did not get to 100% where it's cleaned out. And they had an engineer that they were going to have evaluate, but they've called him off as well. So the building is still not 100% cleaned out, and it was when I saw it back in a meeting, and I apologize for not remembering which month it was. I think it was October. We couldn't even get in the back room of that behind the bar. It was just completely filled, and there were just pathways through to get from one room to the next in the back. It was just completely filled. So I know they've taken 5 dumpsters out of there, and if with that volume, I would say that they probably still have at least a half to 2/3 left in that building that has not been removed. But they kind of pulled out of the project and put the building up for sale is what I know about it.
So when you talk about being able to maneuver freely inside the building, are you talking about fire debris or furniture and just stuff?
Yeah, just stuff mainly. It's very little fire debris. The fire debris was mostly is sitting up on the second floor, and I think that's part of what they've cleaned out. But they had some issues with getting the landfill to accept the debris in the first 5 loads without having the proper documentation for contaminants and things like that would have gone into the landfill. That finally got worked out, and they got rid of the 5 dumpsters full of debris. And at that point, they boarded the building back up and pulled out of it. As far as what I know, the area around the building looks pretty clean. It's not really a danger as far as anything on the ground or anything like that. It's my concerns are the back wall and the wall that, if you can see the picture that's there now, I would call it the south wall, has a buckle in it, and I'm not sure if that's a structural buckle or just a buckle to the stucco.
Okay. Does any of the commissioners have any questions? Okay, I'm not hearing any voices. So
I've got one more. This is Carolyn. When looking at this building, it appears that a lot of its character defining features have been changed over the years, and I'm wondering if it's like preserved and restored, is it going to qualify as a historic structure, or has so much of it been destroyed that it's lost its historic integrity?
Good question. Very good question.
I can respond to that. For a sort of complex project like this, we would require that they work with a historic resources consultant to evaluate the proposal and, you know, consider what might be the character defining features and how those can be preserved to, you know, see if sufficient character defining features and historic integrity can be retained in the restoration to continue to qualify for listing. But we would have a historic consultant weigh in on that to help guide the project.
So no, you're going to have a historical consultant will weigh in on this when?
If the building can be preserved in some fashion, we would require the property owner to work with a historic consultant and
Okay.
submit the, you know, a proposal to your commission with the guidance of a historic resources consultant.
So if there's restoration, then our commission will be involved in determining whether or not the building continues to be a historic resource or whether it's past that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And I did want to just clarify something that the earlier caller said. The determination that the building is structurally unsound and needs to be demolished or needs to be stabilized would be made by the building official. It's not any county official. It's the building official who has expertise in structural safety and integrity and has a duty to protect the public.
Great.
So then at this point in time, what's happening is the current owner who lives down south, if I remember right, down in San Diego, LA or someplace, Irvine, someplace, they were doing cleanup. They were working on it and ended up stopping it all and have stopped any work on the building. They've put it up for sale. And it sounds like they don't plan on doing anything else. So any further work would be the new owner and what their plans were.
That would be my expectation, but if the current owner continues to, you know, doesn't sell the building, they're still required to comply with this order. So,
Okay.
you know, the county would continue to take actions necessary to, you know, comply with the order.
Okay.
Hey, Annie, can I add to that, please?
Please, yes.
For the commissioners, our issue here, one of our issues here is that they've stopped communicating with us. So really, a lot of what we're saying is some speculation on our part. I'm sorry, you know, but yeah, we would, you know, we were going to start the process for this because it takes some time, but that does not mean that that's our goal is to tear this building down. That's not our goal. Our goal is to do what we can do to save the building, but I do have a responsibility to keep the public safe.
Can you please identify yourself? This is Becky Steinbrunner. I don't have a screen, and I request that you identify yourself, please.
Martin, would you introduce yourself and your position in the county?
Right. Good morning, Becky. This is Marty Heaney. That was me who was speaking prior to you.
And what's your position in the county?
I'm the chief building official for Santa Cruz County.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Is there any other questions or comments by the commissioners?
I'd like to make a brief comment. This is Barry. I'd like to make a brief comment. I spent 25 years of my career in the hospitality industry, managing hotels, restaurants, and clubs. I want to comment on the viability of the sale of this building. This is a building that has been a bar and cafe. We're looking at a future during the pandemic where probably not for another year, maybe 2 years, will we be permitted to have capacity in our public buildings that are open for hospitality services. This is going to be a hard sell to get somebody to buy this building, restore it, and then yield a revenue from their work when with limited capacity that I expect to be ongoing for some time into the future. Let's not assume that this is a lickety-split sale. I'll be really surprised if they can find a customer who wants to pay the price and then rebuild the building. So just as a word of caution, I expect that this may come to a head. If the building does not sell, we're going to be in a confrontive position with the current owners. And that's just meant as information from somebody who has done this before.
Thank you, Barry. Any last, because we do have a lot on the agenda and I want to keep moving. And this will be a continuing topic that we will be having at our agenda for next meeting. So, okay, I'm not seeing or hearing anything else. So, Annie, make sure this is on the agenda for next month so we can keep our eye on it.
Will do.
And we're bringing this back down to the commission and moving on to agenda topic 6, public hearing items. And for this one, we are doing a review and consider approving the design for a historical installation honoring Robert Merriman for his heroic role in fighting fascism in the Spanish Civil War. The historic installation is required as a condition of approval for application number 181579 for the property located at 1500 Capitola Road in Santa Cruz, where Robert Merriman lived during his teen years. The property is not a designated historic resource. The project applicant is Mid-Penn Housing. And we're going to start with the report from staff.
Thank you, Chair Phillips. As directed by your commission in October, the subcommittee consisting of Commissioners Perlman and Miriam have worked with the applicant to revise the design for the historic installation in accordance with your commission's October guidance. The applicant is here today to present their finalized design, which has been extensively updated with new art, text, and historic photos for your consideration and approval. In November 2019, the Board of Supervisors approved a mixed-use project for this site. In the approved site plan, 3 interpretive historic panels will be provided to the public in the public plaza area facing Capitola Road. Recognizing the expertise that your commission brings to the review of interpretive historic installations and your knowledge regarding the historic significance of Robert Merriman, the Board of Supervisors directed that your commission review the design and content of the historic panels for conformance with the condition of approval and approve the design. It should be noted that this is not a designated historic property, and as such, your commission's authority for this project is limited to reviewing the installation design and content for conformance with the condition of approval. As required in this condition, the historic installation focuses on the life and significance of Robert Merriman and his connection to Santa Cruz and the Capitola Road site. Through engaging text, art, and photos, the panels relay how Robert's teen years in Santa Cruz influenced his development review his historic role in the Spanish Civil War, and also touch on his inspiration to Robert Hemingway. Staff believes that the panels comply with this condition of approval and is recommending that your commission approve the installation design. Commissioner Perlman will be also providing a report to your commission. And we have Vanessa Diffenbaugh and Ashley Schweikart from Mid-Penn with us today, who will also provide a presentation to your commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. And now Commissioner Perlman would like to report on his subcommittee input on this. Barry?
Thank you. It was a real joy to do this. It was a lot of fun, and it was fun because it was busy and rich with responses and communication and fulfillment that was very complete. The person you'll be hearing from, I believe, next after me is Vanessa Diffenbaugh, who Carlos from Mid-Penn Housing was able to source out. And Vanessa and Carlos and I had an initial conversation over the telephone, and he told me that he was going to bring in an expert to do the project. And that person was Vanessa, and she and I chat a matter of 2 days later, and we initialized the process. We used information from Joe Michalak and Judith Steen. We used Ross's historic perspective on Robert Merriman, and we also used logic and forethought. We took the opinions that were expressed by the commissioners at the October meeting, and we wrapped those opinions into a go-forward vision and attitude. So the first thing that happened is that we modified the copy. And the first thing that I was shown and Susie was shown was modified copy that was really quite good, but we honed it and we refined it and we made it very accurate to the best of our knowledge and also tasteful so that it would, part of the challenge is to have the project fit within the physical space that we have. So looking at the size of a panel, you start to look at the copy and the images, and it sort of dictates back to you. If you look at the legal font size that is required, and you look at the spacing, you're able to calculate how many words can be used per panel. So that analysis was done, and then the theme was developed that the panels would reflect. Panel 1 would be early life in Santa Cruz of Robert Merriman. The middle panel would be his further education at the University of Nevada and Berkeley and his moving into his doctoral program. And then the third panel would be about his heroism in the Spanish Civil War. So that was our next marker. And then we started to critique the artwork to determine how to redirect the artist towards what we wanted, which the commission expressed some very clear feelings about at the October meeting. At any rate, in a matter of days, Vanessa was coming back to me with rewritten copy, with redesigned overviews of the panels, and we started moving into detail. The work was extremely clever, efficient, well-researched, and the material that started to come to me had just the right idea. I felt that Carlos had listened very carefully and that he had communicated extremely accurately to Vanessa and the team she put together what the criteria needed to be and how it needed to change. So what we have here today are 3 panels and a presentation of how they were developed and what they are, that I will leave that up to our presenters mid-pen. However, I want to name that an updated note came in from Joe Michalak and Judy Steen on January 10th. And that note complimented us greatly on the vast improvements made in the presentation and offered a few points of very particular detail to be modified, where the changing of a word would change some of the innuendo. I have taken their letter and I have analyzed their letter and matched it to the copy. And it is not a major issue at all. It's the change of a couple of words and letters for full accuracy. I'm going to use one example. The word ranchette was actually from a little bit later era, from the 1940s. And the Wilson brothers called these homes tracts. So in our copy, we refer to them as ranchettes. We can quite simply add the word tract, put ranchette in parentheses, and we've solved it and we're 100% accurate. So I would like to move forward with the very small detail presented by Joe and Judy. I would like to move forward with Vanessa and do the very minimum modifications to copy at a time after this meeting. It's a matter of changing 5 words entirely in the 3 panels. So informally, I'm going to ask for that of the commission now, because I would not want to see this small detail delay the approval of the project. We have come so far on this beautiful project that my hopes are that you all will agree with me that it's a very refined piece, that it's very accurate to the goals established for fulfillment. And at this point, I would like to ask if anybody has any questions of me, and then I would like to complete my part and have you guys receive the presentation from Vanessa.
Are there any questions on Barry and the work that the subcommittee did?
And thank you to Susie for working with me. And also a big thanks to Annie Murphy. And I'd like to say something that has not been mentioned today. And I would like to address actually one of our guests and a question that our guest had, and that's Ms. Steinbrunner. Becky, you're not watching on computer today. I would like to share with you that Annie is wearing a mask, and so is Linda. And if we can't hear them as clearly as the rest of us who are in the privacy of our homes, let's recognize that. That's partly why you cannot understand them. They're speaking to the microphone through a mask because they're practicing proper protocol. So I want to take this moment to thank Annie. She's been working from home. She's been working really hard. It's a tough assignment. Fall was really an incredibly difficult time for county employees trying to maintain. And the cooperation and help I got from Annie on bringing this to you at this meeting for final approval I want to thank you, Annie, and I want the commission to recognize the amount of work that you put in on it.
Thank you so much, Barry.
Thank you, Barry, I appreciate that.
Susie, did you want to make any comments on your efforts on the subcommittee?
Oh, thanks. I was just there as background support and just a second reader. Barry really did all the heavy lifting, but I just really appreciate the willingness to collaborate on the part of Mid-Penn in getting this done. And I think it was a great collaboration, and I'm really thankful for all the support that we got. And thank you. And thank you, Barry.
And I also saw Carolyn's hand up.
Yeah, I had my hand up. I just want to make sure. Now we'll have a chance to add comments because I have some comments about some things that I would like to see changed. So now isn't the time to do that, I suppose.
I'm just going to suggest that we discuss that after we have the mid-pen presentation.
Great, that's fine, thanks.
Great. So I've made a note here about that. So if we can move on. So we have two people from mid-pen, is that right, Amy?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure which one wants to speak first.
This is Vanessa Diffenbaugh. I can go ahead and get started if you're ready for me.
Yes, Vanessa, thank you and welcome.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Perlman, for your introduction and for your leadership throughout this process. I also want to just say right off the bat, with your suggested next steps to make those small changes, I agree with you absolutely and hope that we can do that together. So good morning, commissioners. My name is Vanessa Diffenbaugh, and I'm happy to be here today on behalf of Mid-Pen Housing, Santa Cruz Community Health, and Dientes Dental to present our final designs for the historical installation honoring Robert Merriman at 1500 Capitola Road. Because I'm new to most of you, I just want to take a second to introduce myself. I work with Ashley Schweikert, who's also here today. She is a project manager on this project, and I am the associate project manager. Before I came to Mid-Pen Housing, I actually spent an entire decade as a full-time writer, and I also have an undergraduate degree in visual art. So this was a really quite surprising opportunity for me to bring my background and skills together to work in affordable housing. So thank you for that opportunity. I think I have control of the slides here, so I will move forward. I'm not sure if you gave me control yet, but I do need the next slide.
I see your cursor right here.
It isn't
There it is.
working the way we practiced. Okay, there we go. All right. Technical difficulty.
I'm sorry, before you go on, Letitia, our screen, rather than seeing a PowerPoint, I'm seeing Vanessa. So I don't know if it's that way for other people. There we go. Thank you. Okay.
There we go.
All right, great. So moving on, before we jump right into the panels, I did want to just give a very brief overview of the mixed use development that this will be a part of in case anyone on the call is hearing about this project for the first time. These historical panels will be part of a mixed use development that will include a 20,000 square foot medical facility operated by Santa Cruz Community Health, an 11,000 square foot dental clinic operated by Dientes Community Dental, as well as 57 affordable family homes for low-income Santa Cruz County individuals and families. And I know I don't need to belabor the point of how important community health and affordable housing is, especially right now when we are collectively living through a pandemic that has been so exacerbated in California by a housing crisis. And as county staff mentioned, your approval today is part of the formal conditions of approval for this project. So extremely important for us to keep moving forward on the timeline that is proposed. All right, and we're moving to the next slide. I don't know if you're able to just, here, it's extremely hard for me to do this. Yeah, if you could just move forward when I say next slide, that would be easier. Thank you so much. All right, a very brief recap of where we've been. These conversations started way back in February of 2018. In July 2019, we had a new DPR report that requested that we honor Robert Merriman through an interpretive historical installation. In November 2019, we had the land use entitlements approved by the Board of Supervisors, and that's when that formal condition of approval was put into place, requiring a historical installation honoring Robert Merriman. Then just this last fall, in October 2020, my colleague Carlos and again Ashley were here before you just to give some initial concepts and request your feedback. And now we're here today, bright and early in the new year, and we're requesting final approval of the designs for these panels. Next slide. All right, so before we jump into the new designs, I just wanted to give a brief overview of our last interaction with the Historical Commission. You gave us very
clear and specific feedback on our initial designs. And the really great news for us was that your direction aligned absolutely with the formal condition of approval by the Board of Supervisors. So we were able to put together the condition of approval, your feedback, and move forward with a direction. Next slide. So we had 4 very clear takeaways from that October meeting. The first thing we heard from all commissioners was that we needed to focus the narrative. So we were trying to do a whole lot of things in a very small space. We were trying to include a lot about the history of live oak and poultry farming and begonias. And the clear direction from the commission was really that Robert Merriman is a inspirational character. His story is inspirational. We needed to focus on telling that story in a way that was captivating. And that would probably require weeding out a lot of the history of live oak and really focusing on Robert Merriman himself. The second thing we heard loud and clear was that the commission wanted us to de-emphasize Ernest Hemingway. Really, the only connection Hemingway has to this site is that Robert Merriman is said to be the inspiration for the character Robert Jordan in For Whom a Bell Tolls. That actually hasn't been even proven. So the commission didn't want to see us focusing a lot of time, space, or especially images on Ernest Hemingway. Next slide, please. All right, the third thing we heard was that historical accuracy is essential. And that was made clear to us, not just in the narrative, which of course we had always hoped would be historically accurate, but also in the images. The commission really didn't want to see sort of an interpretation of what Robert Merriman like, and that brings me to the fourth point, which was that if possible, the commission wanted us to see if we could include historical photos in addition to the paintings. Next slide. All right, so Barry gave a little bit of an overview of how we were able to work together to craft the new panels, but I did want to just pause here for a second and really give a wholehearted wave of gratitude to Commissioner Perlman for his dedication to this project, really making himself available at the drop of a hat. At one point, when I let him know that I didn't feel like I had quite a grasp on the source materials, he allowed me to drive by his house and pick up all the materials that he printed out for me. So we really had that level of collaboration throughout the project, and I was really grateful to have a thought partner so dedicated to this project. So thank you, Barry.
And thank you, Vanessa.
All right. Yeah, it was a lot. It was fun, actually. So moving along, the first thing we did, as Commissioner Perlman said, was that we wanted to create a theme for each panel. As a professional writer, I've learned my lesson too many times. You don't start with final copy, you start with ideas. So we really created 3 themes, one for each panel. Then we decided what the title would be, what the key information, where we'd pull the source material. And then from there, we worked through multiple drafts and we gave them to all development partners as well as the subcommittee to review and comment. And then we refined to create some final narratives. Next slide, please. So the second thing we did was we said, all right, if we have our story, if we have the narrative content for all 3 panels, then what are the photos that will really complement that story and bring it to life? So we were able to gather images of the high school, of Robert Merriman, of his wife, of his time in the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. And then we worked with really helpful individuals at the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History, UC Berkeley, and the Abraham Lincoln Brigade Archive to request high quality images and to secure the rights to reproduce them on the panel. So all of those, I was a little bit worried that we weren't going to be able to actually get the rights in time, but I'm happy to report that for every image you see today, we already have the right to produce those on the panel. Next slide. The third step was that we went back to the artist and we gave her the feedback, which was that the commission was very happy to have her do the art and bring some color and life and liveliness to these panels, but that historical accuracy was extremely important to the commission. And so we brainstormed and worked together to come up with some images that we thought would bring really bring the panels to life without compromising any of the historical accuracy. The artist was fantastic. She worked on a very tight timeline, turned around all 3 paintings, and we were able to get high quality images to the graphic designer in time to put together a final design. Next slide. Step 4 was just, you know, it's very important we have these in English and Spanish, and that we have a beautiful design that tells the story. So we worked with Language Line Solutions and a graphic designer at the sign company who I think we were at maybe draft 16 the last time I checked. So we really have gone through this quite a few times to get to the final design. Next slide. All right, so in summary, the final designs are historically accurate, tell a focused, compelling story, complement the building design and color palette, include original paintings and historical photographs, and meet ADA and California State Parks sign guidelines. Drum roll, please. All right, next slide. All right, this is the first panel. You'll see at the top right-hand side that we have a consistent title on all 3 panels, which is the story of Robert Merriman, very clear. And then on the left-hand side, we have a different title for each panel that will give you the theme that we've come up with. So this first theme is the early years, Live Oak 1923 to 1928. In this first panel, we really wanted to highlight his activities and contributions during his years at Santa Cruz High, which helped form his ideas and values. And we also wanted to connect this to farming and his interest in innovation in farming that led him to go to UC Berkeley and continue his studies there. The painting that you see by Vanessa Stafford honors his home that once stood on the location at 1438 Capitola Road. And we've additionally included his high school photograph, a historical photo of Santa Cruz High School, and a photo of a live oak egg laying contest, because we thought that would give viewers a little bit of a better understanding of live oak during those years without going really deeply into the history of farming. Next slide. All right, the second panel is an education of an American hero. And as Commissioner Perlman told you, this panel gives you an idea of his time after he left Live Oak and went to study at the University of Nevada and then at UC Berkeley. He met his wife, and the painting there captures a picnic they had when they came back to Live Oak to meet Merriman's family. Next slide, please. The third panel here is the first year of World War II, and this summarizes his time joining up with the International Brigades in Spain, fighting with the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, and then his presumed death in the Ebro Valley. The Ebro Valley there is pictured in the painting, and we do have 2 photographs of Robert Merriman in uniform in the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. I also did want to point out that on the bottom right in that green box, we've finished the 3 panels by tying it into the values of the 3 organizations that will occupy the site, which I thought was a really nice way to honor Merriman and also honor the organizations that are working so hard to contribute positively to this community. Next slide, please. Finally, I just wanted to give a brief reminder to the Commission of where these panels will sit. So if you see Capitola Road there in the foreground, the sidewalk will curve around a beautiful historic live oak that will be preserved in this development. And then where those 3 stars are is where the 3 historic panels will be, and they will be facing the road for the public who are just walking by or anyone who's coming to use the clinics to enjoy. Next slide. Wonderful. So that is my full presentation. I just also wanted to let everyone know that Ashley Schweikart, the project manager, is here, as well as Sherry Storm from Dientes Community Dental, who will be representing the clinics if anyone has questions. The 3 of us are available. So thank you all very much.
So let's open up questions to the commission first. So commissioners, do any of you have any questions for Vanessa? And I can't tell if anyone's asking.
I don't see any hands up.
Okay, Carolyn, I thought you had some questions.
I just raised my hand. Actually, I had comments rather than questions. I have, maybe they are questions. There's some things I wanted to suggest some changes. So I didn't know if this was an appropriate time to do that.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
this would be the appropriate time. So you're talking about the three panels.
The 3 panels, yes. I really first wanted to congratulate everybody for all the work they've done. In my background, have had some experience writing in formats that limit the number of words, so I know how very difficult it is to do that. And it requires, you would think to have fewer words would take less effort, but it really takes a whole lot more.
Indeed, you got that right.
Yes, you talk about, this word over that word, and I know that it's still, I want you to be aware that if I'm suggesting a few changes, it's not without taking that into consideration. I know that you've worked on every word, and I wanted to thank you, Barry, for all of your work on this. I know how much time you've put into it, and it really it shows. The work, having our comments be heard, and then seeing the results and the changes it's very reassuring. And so I just want to compliment everybody. And the artwork, really, I love the cottage. It looks great, and everything is well chosen. I had one, I'm going to be nitpicky, but when I worked for newspapers, we never were allowed to have a picture looking off the page. So I just wondered if it's possible to have Robert Merriman's photograph from high school flipped the other way. I told you that's really picky. It doesn't matter. But that was just one comment I had. And the other is there's reference to Live Oak. I think it's in the second paragraph on the first panel. In this time in Live Oak, Live Oak appeared to be a typical suburban community. Yeah, from the street, Live Oak looked like a typical suburban community. I don't think Live Oak has ever looked like a typical suburban community. It's totally rural. So I just wondered how that suburban got in there, and if maybe you could change it to rural. Anyway, that's my second suggestion. And the last one is I have a very strong reaction to the word ranchette. I don't like it. It doesn't fit at all. And so in reading this, I went and looked up, how many times the word ranchette appeared in the Sentinel. In the 20s, in the 1920s, it didn't appear really at all. And it doesn't appear to have been used until the 1950s, and then it was used in classified ads. So I don't see that it's a fitting word. And I looked up Wilson Brothers' sales of lots in the 1920s, and the word they used was bungalow. So the little cottages were referred to as bungalows. And I don't know if if there's, for some reason, people don't like that word, but I really don't like the word ranchette and would highly recommend getting rid of it. So those are kind of little picky things, but that's all I have to suggest. Otherwise, I love it. I think I can see people really coming and reading this and taking away something about Live Oak that they probably would never know. So those are my comments.
And it looks like Susie Merriam has their hand raised.
Yay, it worked. Thanks. I just want to follow up on what Carolyn was saying. I was laughing out loud when you said Live Oak was probably never suburban. And I totally agree with that, actually thinking about it. So I think I would support both of those changes, maybe we look at, I don't know, I'll have you guys, the applicant or Barry talk about where suburban came from. But yeah, it is Live Oak. Really, I never even thought about it. I must have looked over, just glossed over this. Yeah, it was definitely a rural community. And I think it sounds like Judy Steen was also recommending that maybe Ranchette be removed as well, but that sounds appropriate. Thank you.
Hi. This is Commissioner Perlman. May I say a few words on this matter?
Certainly.
Okay. The word suburban comes from the Wilson brothers selling the tracts. I believe that we may be in a peculiar, almost double entendre here, because absolutely suburban, what we associate with the word suburban, is very, very different than Live Oak was in the 20s. But that was a term used by the sellers for something that was less than urban. Okay, but let me continue, please. And we can work with that word, absolutely. If the commission's not comfortable with it, we can work with it. The word ranchette was not used by the Wilson brothers and is not from the 20s. And on that fact, Carolyn is smack on target. Ranchette was used in the 40s and 50s as a sales mechanism and a way to make people think they were getting more because of the bigger lots. However, the word that was used in the 20s was tract, T-R-A-C-T. And I believe that with some clever substitution, we can include the word tract, put ranchette in some kind of parentheses, or say later called ranchettes, and we can smooth this over, staying completely accurate and without needing much ado.
Okay. So Alberta, do you have any comments on what Barry, Susie, and Carolyn have been discussing? So I'm making some notes. So, and I think Annie is too, for a possible motion later. So if not, if there isn't any other comments from the commissioners, then I'll open it for public comments. And if you have any questions to the mid-pen presenters.
Hello, this is Becky Steinbrunner. May I comment, please? Thank you. First of all, I want to heartily thank Commissioners Perlman and Merriam for their wonderful work, and also to the developer for being willing to work so hard and make these major changes that are a vast improvement over what was initially submitted. And I really want to thank you. I think it better portrays the historic significance of the property. And I also think it, in addition to providing information, provides a source of inspiration as to what a local person, a young person, did in the world. And I applaud to the note that you have such limited word space. I applaud that it is also included and translated in Spanish to also further convey the information and the inspiration. I like that the historic photos are used. That is a great improvement. And especially I like the egg laying contest. I think that's a very good way to show that this was a big deal. And as I've said before, Santa Cruz County was second in the state, maybe the nation, for egg laying productivity, and there were big contests like this. So that's a very excellent way to portray, rather than words even, how big a deal this was in the farming and how it influenced Robert Merriman. I liked the paintings. They're very colorful, and when I first looked at the second slide and saw the prominence of the Paradise Park, it's beautiful, but I wondered why it is so prominent. I understand that's where the Merrimans met when they came back, but it feels like it kind of pulls the thoughts of a reader away from what they are actually seeing at the site. But I'm not suggesting a change. I'm just making that comment because I do understand you're under a very tight timeline. And I think that the photos that you've included with that artwork help bring it to focus.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. To the third slide, I want to say that that is beautiful also. And I do know that in Spain, there is a plaque honoring Robert Merriman. I know this because Ed Silvera met with the man from Spain that came here to research this. And so I request that there be some mention that there is a plaque there, perhaps even a photo if we can get that from the Spanish government. But that would be an amazing addition to this and really help tie it to the world influence and thought that Robert Merriman had. I also think that
That's
we
3
should
minutes.
include in there a definition of fascism, because although it says in the last block his ideals, fascism is not defined. And I would think that many people, especially young people, may not understand or know what that is and why it mattered so much for Robert Merriman to give his life to fighting. And I understand I'm out of time, but I'm happy that the panels will be positioned in such a good public location near the sidewalk. Thank you very much.
I would like to respond if that's possible.
Certainly. Vanessa?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Becky, for those comments. And I just wanted to tell you personally how hard I worked to get a photo of that plaque in.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
I agree with you. Absolutely, that really would have been the final thing on that third panel to bring home the historical significance of Merriman. I even wrote a few emails in Spanish to the Spanish professors that own the rights to that photograph. I haven't heard back from any of my attempts. If that does change, I'll work really hard to include that as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your work. It's really well done.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
If I could speak for a moment, I would like to just address something that was said by Ms. Steinbrunner about the middle panel and the covered bridge. Okay. By the way, one of our little changes will be changing the name of the covered bridge to the California Powder Works Bridge, which is the accurate name of the bridge. So that one change will be happening. But the middle panel is about his education, and it leans on University of Nevada and Berkeley, and then eventually his going to Russia, okay? So those are all foreign places, and we wanted to have a sense of keeping the entire project as local centric as we could. So while speaking about his education outside of Santa Cruz, we thought tying it in with the place he visited while he was being educated when he came back to Santa Cruz, we thought that that would tie it together and still keep it more immediate and local. So that's the reason we've used the bridge. There you got it.
And it looks like we have a hand raised by Joe. I don't know if someone wanted to comment before we allow this guest speaker.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? This is Joe Michaelak.
Yes, Joe, welcome.
Thank you
so much for your continuing help, Joe.
Yeah, you guys did a great job. I've researched the site in Spain where the plaque is. And I have an image off the internet, but I think, you know, I can indicate to you how you can get in touch with these people unless the Mid-Penn housing people have already tried this unsuccessfully. But I can get you.
I have tried, but I'm happy to have that information as well and try again.
Yeah, okay. Can you send me your email and I'll forward it? Well, how about if I forward it to the Barry and he can process it to the rest of the commission? Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
Sure enough.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank Judy also. What you guys pitched in really brought us to the center of the project. I mean that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Is there any other comments or questions from anyone, commissioners or the public?
This Carolyn.
Yes, Carolyn.
I just wanted to say that I really do encourage the authors to just completely get rid of Ranchette. I can't stand that word, and I don't know where it came from. So that's all I have to say.
Well, what I was going to, I think the next step, and I'll coordinate with Annie, if all the questions and comments are done, since this is a motion to approve, is that we go through step by step, identifying any and all changes that we want made on the 3 panels, and then approve that they are complete, and then that will be the end.
Linda, may I say something? I think that's perfect. That's what I was hoping that you would propose at the end of the presentation. That's really right on mark. And as I told you, I've done advance work. So if you would like, I could lead that conversation and take us through the 8 points that Joe Michalak and Judith Steen have submitted to us. And I can indicate to you my suggested changes. And I think that would take us most efficiently through it.
That would be good. Then this agenda topic would be completed and it would not have.
Correct. Yeah, amen. Yeah, good. Okay.
All right. Barry, are you ready to?
I am absolutely ready. I've taken notes and prepared for the next 5 minutes. I'm ready to go with this.
All right.
Well, you know, for all the work that other people have done, I needed to do my part to bring us sufficiently through the meeting and not have this take hours and hours. So I'm ready to go. I'm going to start with reading the note from Joe Michalak, which is the series of interpretive panels is a definite improvement. The layout is first class, impressive. We hope the HRC finds our comments helpful. So here are the comments. Number 1, Merriman was business manager for the yearbook, okay? And we call him manager. The editor, Audrey Markham, was most likely in charge. So if you look at the yearbook and the yearbook page, the 2 top pictures for the yearbook staff are Audrey Markham, the editor, and next to her and above all others is the picture of Robert Merriman. So I suggest that instead of calling him the manager, we simply call him the co-manager. And that takes care of accuracy in the yearbook. He and the editor managed together. Their names are on the same, their pictures are on the same line. So I would just say that he co-managed it. And that's my suggestion for number 1. Okay. For number 2, it's all about Ranchette. Okay. That's what point 2 is all about. That we are being told that Ranchette was a later used word. I've looked into it and agree with that. So the word that was used in selling these lots by the Wilson brothers was the word tract. I suggest that we change ranchette to tract and then put comma, later known as ranchettes in the 40s. And then that is taken care of. And for subsequent uses, pull out ranchette in all references and use tract or lot in its place. So that's how I would deal with number 2. Number 3 is changing one letter. Robert Merriman's family moved in 1923, not in 1922 in the body copy. So if we change one letter to 1923, we will be accurate on point 4. Okay? On point 5, it's the addition of an item that would discuss Robert being a Boy Scout. I'm going to just say this. We've run out of space. If we put a paragraph in about his being a Boy Scout, that paragraph has to substitute and other vital information must be removed. I think that it's a nice enhancement, but we just don't have space for the word. So I'm going to suggest the only one that we do not address is that we do not address item 5 about the Boy Scouts. Item 6, the Merriman House illustration. Okay, here's what's written. Is the small building to the right of the house intended to portray a poultry house? While this is a fanciful, romanticized depiction, it is not realistic. Chickens would be in a controlled area and not free-ranging on the lawn. Raising poultry was a business. Chickens were not pets. Now, this was very helpful the first time that it was mentioned before our October meeting, because we had the earlier painting of the couple holding the chickens on their laps. So I agree with that. However, I don't know if any of you have chickens. I have chickens, and I'm going to just say this. Chickens get out. It's just that simple. For 6 chickens to get out of a commercially contained coop is somewhat normal. They just get out. So we could interpret this painting as saying that they're free ranging, but they're all clustered together. So I am comfortable myself leaving this because at any given moment, 3 to 6 chickens can be out of the coop walking around in the yard randomly. And that is the truth of having chickens. So on item 6, I would say I recognize the accuracy of the statement that it was a commercial endeavor and that those chickens were money to them, not pets, but I'm not bothered by the painting and the slightly romanticized image. I would suggest we can live with it. Okay. Item number 7, the National Register of Historic Places, the covered bridge, and we will change it to the California Powder Works Bridge. I'm sure that Mid-Penn wants accuracy here. That's easy to do, and there's plenty of room underneath the painting to modify the name of the bridge. So I would suggest that will happen. Okay. The final one is that Merriman received a fellowship, not a scholarship. And I believe fellowship is an equally strong word and can quite simply be used in substitution. So I believe that that would bring us vastly forward on the advised changes. And if people can live without the Boy Scout reference and live with the few chickens there, I think we can make the rest of the changes in a very reasonable fashion that is also timely.
Okay, so is there any
And if I could, and I would be, I'm very willing to continue my work with the subcommittee and meet with Vanessa on these individual changes and then review that they have been accomplished. If you have trusted me to deliver what you see today, I assure you I can achieve the small modifications just recommended if you like them, and they will all be included, and we will work like hand in glove to conform to the will of the commission.
So, Barry, so before we go any further, can we, I ended up losing track, and I don't know, Annie, if you did. Did you get?
Yeah, I can go through what I understand the corrections to be, and then it may be helpful to bring it back to the commission again for any comments before.
Okay, to make sure that we've got them all
Yeah.
through. So Annie's gonna read through the list of what changes that the subcommittee is recommending, and then we'll open it up for any comments or questions.
Great,
And
sounds good.
hopefully we'll be able to vote.
Yeah.
Real good.
And if I miss anything, Barry, feel free to chime in
I'm right with you. I have my document and my notes right here, so I'll follow you, Annie.
So the first change is on panel 1 to state that Robert Merriman is the co-manager of the yearbook. Natisha, can we zoom into the text possibly?
Annie, this
Yeah.
Carolyn, I'm getting, you're sort of cutting up. I can't, your words
Okay,
aren't
I'm
coming.
sorry. Is that any better?
That's better, but
Okay.
it's like there's a stutter in the system. You know what I mean? It's like you're dropping out a little bit.
Okay.
I would suggest I will mute everyone so that there's no other sounds cutting in, and I'll let Annie speak while she goes through these.
Okay.
Okay. So the first change would be on panel 1 to indicate that Robert Merriman was the co-manager of the yearbook. Is that maybe in the caption of the photo? Let's see, I'm not sure where that text appears.
Right up there, you're the Christian.
Oh, right, he managed, right, where he was, so change that to right. Where he was the co-manager of the yearbook, or something to that effect, to note that he was the co-manager. The second change would be to change the term ranchette to tract, and Barry suggested adding the phrase later termed ranchette. And this would be wherever the term ranchette appears on these panels, to change it to tract. The third change would be, let's see, to change the year that Merriman and his family moved to Santa Cruz. The panel states it was 1922, but it would be changed to 1923. Yes, right there in that first sentence. Thank you, Natisha. The fourth change would be to change the name of the bridge shown on panel 2. I believe it's panel 2. Yes, to the California Powder Works Bridge, and that's right in the caption there. So we say the California Powder Works Bridge at Paradise Park. And then the final change recommended is to change the word scholarship. I'm not sure which panel this is on, but to change the word scholarship to
It's, I think,
fellowship.
that's, yeah, right in there.
Oh, right, you want a scholarship, so
Yeah, so
it would be changed from scholarship to fellowship.
yeah.
That's panel 2.
Could you repeat that? It's what word is being changed?
Yeah, so this is on panel 2, and the sentence reads now, it reads, he won a scholarship to study Soviet collectivist farming in Moscow, and that would be changed to he won a fellowship to study Soviet collectivist farming.
Where is that? Could you point it to it?
That is in the second panel, the second paragraph,
Okay.
and it's the final sentence in that
I
paragraph.
can't see it. I'm having a hard time seeing that. Second panel, second paragraph.
Right.
The title of it is In the Fall of 1932, They Moved to Berkeley.
Okay.
And
So,
then
and what's the word being changed?
scholarship to fellowship.
Is that an accurate? Is that accurate?
Barry?
Barry, you're muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Bingo, there we go. Yes, he did win a fellowship while he was at University of California, Berkeley, to study in Moscow. But it's not a scholarship, it's a fellowship, which is just we're just being an accurate, essentially he got funded. Okay, he got funded to go study in Moscow, and it was in the form of a fellowship. So we'll be accurate with that word.
Okay. Is economics capitalized? I'm just curious. It's up there in the first paragraph.
I would think so, because that's what the degree is in. It's an economics degree.
Well, but why would you capitalize it?
Because it's the title of a department.
Mm.
It would be entitled the economics department, and both words would have caps. So I would just defer to having our writers double check on what is correct, and whichever is
that would be good. I would check.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Carolyn. Sure.
Okay, so
Well, I have one more question. We missed on the list from Joe and Judy, number 2, about putting a date on the photo of Merriman.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, I wrote over that. Correct. I missed the little item number 2, which we should do.
Okay.
all right, so we would add that then to date the photo.
His high school photo.
Right. Is that, can you zoom in, Letitia? Is that first? I think that might be. Oh, okay, so add.
Yeah, I think we can slip in 1925 between his name and Santa Cruz High School. Sure.
Okay.
So then that's a total of 6 changes, minor changes to the 3 panels. So I'm going to open it one last time for any questions or comments about these changes.
Okay, this is Carolyn.
Okay.
I'm now. Are you asking us to agree with these?
I'm going to ask for a vote in a minute. I just wanted to make sure that all questions or comments were addressed, and then we're going to vote to approve these or not.
Okay, because I'm still hearing ranchette in there, and
no, that's being changed.
Well,
no, the word is still in there.
Well,
and
belief.
I don't think that Live Oak ever had ranchettes, so I think it's inaccurate. I looked through every year that ranchettes appeared in all the papers, and it was minimal until the 1970s. So I don't know how you could say a 1920s house was ever referred to as a ranchette, because ranchette was never a term used to describe houses in Live Oak. So I can't agree with that. And I'm not sure I agree with the word co-manager for the yearbook, because I'm not sure that is that what he was known as? He was known as the co-manager?
Well, he was the financial manager, and most projects usually have two leaders. One is the person doing the financing, one person doing the creative part. So if you look at the inside cover where they have the staff of the yearbook, I've looked at the yearbook page, and Robert and Audrey, the editor, are on an equal level above all other staff members. So we are taking license to call him co-manager, but that was his de facto job, if not his title, which was business manager. So
what I'm thinking is, is that a term that was used in high school yearbooks to describe officers? To me, it's more of a modern term that you're giving you're using it in a historical way, but I'm not sure. And it's one of those things that somebody, who's doing the writing could look up, but it's just another phrase that did they use co? They didn't say co-chairman back in those days, I know. So maybe it's.
Well, actually, if we want to get down to it, I am trying to honor and recognize the detailing suggested by our historian friends, Joe and Judy. But I don't have any problem with using it as it is manager, because if you're the financial manager, you are in fact a manager. So where it says he managed, it doesn't say he was the senior manager, it just says he managed.
Just to note, Vanessa did add to the chat that a way to kind of address both of these issues would be to suggest a manager as opposed to the manager. That's in the chat there for Annie.
Sure, a manager, great.
But if you played with that sentence, you could say financial manager. No?
Oh, I'm sure we can. We can do anything. We can do anything we think is right. We can make it work.
Letitia, would you mind zooming into the text there again?
So, would you like me to read the text?
So Carolyn, what you're saying is you would like it to be more specific.
Yeah, if he was the financial manager book, if you play with that sentence, I'm sure you can get the word financial in there.
Well, all you have to do is add the word finances, where he managed the yearbook's finances. Bingo.
Okay, that's good.
How's that, everybody? Where he managed the yearbook's finances.
You could even take the out and say
right.
He managed the yearbook's finances.
Right, absolutely.
I raised my hand.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like we have a comment from the public.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, you have a comment.
On the text it says business manager. I don't see what the problem is adding business manager. It meant he went out and got ads for the yearbook, most likely. So I don't know.
And he probably managed the budget of the yearbook also.
I don't know what they do.
Right.
Business manager. That's what it says. I can only report what I see.
I appreciate that, Joe. What do you say, folks? You want to try to fit in business manager?
Yes.
Sure. I don't want to beat this to death. We've got too many other things to talk about.
Yep. Agreed.
I want it to be accurate, and I want everyone to make it clear and concise. So we're changing it from manager to business manager?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions before we vote?
Yes, I have. This is Becky Steinbrunner.
Okay,
Thank you. I really appreciate this discussion and the input by Joe Micklak and Judith Steen. I also want to clarify that and appreciate that there will be dates added to all photos. I think that's especially important for the second panel, the photo of the Merriman's Berkeley home. Is that what it looks like today? Is that what it looked like then? That's important to clarify, and if it's possible, to add even an indication of the address, as was done for the address on the main home in Live Oak.
I would recommend. Go ahead.
Pardon?
No, I defer. I'm sorry. Continue, please.
Thank you. I also am happy to hear that you've just clarified, worked out this issue about the yearbook. That was going to be my suggestion. Also, just call it what it was, the business manager. So thank you again, Mr. Micklak, for helping that and for the commission's willingness to be so flexible and accept this. I think that the comment about the poultry in the painting is a good one, and really I'm wondering if we can at all get a photo of what a small poultry farm looked like, because they were businesses, and to somehow portray that it was a business, not a little fun hobby as poultry is now for a lot of people, but it was a real business that people did make their livelihoods with, and that is what impressed upon Robert Merriman. The whole idea of the ranchette is good. Thank you for the discussion. It's going to be on panel 2. It also again refers to he was inspired in part by his teenage years on a ranchette in Live Oak. So I would like to suggest small farm that might be able in some areas to be able to portray the essence of agriculture connection without using the word bungalow. I think that won't give the same connotation. Thank you very much for your good work, and I really, again, appreciate this effort.
Dick Carolyn again. I heard somebody say, well, you would, if you had a farm, you wouldn't ever refer to it as a farmette.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
Oh, so I was gonna say, I believe Barry had mentioned that, that all mention of ranchette would be changed to tract on the panels.
But a tract is a house wouldn't be a tract. A tract is a group of homes, is it not?
The Wilson
Tract is a division of land, usually.
Say that again.
When the Wilson brothers were advertising their newspaper advertising referred to them as tracts, I believe.
But a tract is a group of homes, a tract of houses.
Well, I can't address that. I think that we would need to. I think we would need to research it.
I think Suzanne had a comment clarifying the term tract, if you wanted to
How about if the writer of the panel looks up what term was used in the 1920s when they were selling these houses, and then it applies that word.
Sure. Great.
I mean, if it's tract, that's fine.
And whatever it is, we'll use it.
Yeah.
This is Vanessa. I'm the writer. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes. Yeah, Vanessa?
Great. You know, I think just one point of clarification. First of all, as a writer, I think my greatest strength is I never get attached to a single word. And to me, it sounds very clear that most people on the commission really just don't like the word ranchette. And I think that's completely fine, and I'm happy to cut it. I think what that word does, ranchette, is it paints a picture for the modern reader, right? Like the people who are just walking by the street and have no idea what used to be here. Ranchette really calls forth an image for the modern person. So I think that what Barry was suggesting is if we put it in parentheses, later called ranchette, that calls forth an image for the reader. If you guys don't like that word, I'm happy to do lots of research on coming up with another word that would serve that same purpose. And Becky suggested small farm, which might work. But I think for us as the developer, you know, we've worked really hard on these panels. We're so happy to make this kind of small changes. So I just want you to know that we're 100% open to that. We can continue to work hard. Today is a really important approval so that we can continue to move forward on our building project. But if you do want to give your comments to Barry and keep the subcommittee alive, I feel very confident that we can work through this kind of minute issue of the word ranchette and really come back with something everything's comfortable with. We can get rid of that word. I really think we can do that.
Yeah, if I can clarify, I think the motion can include eliminate the term ranchette and apply an appropriate term that was used in the 1920s.
Perfect.
Does that sound good to the commission?
This is Becky Steinbrunner. There's a critical point that I forgot to make that I'd really like to be able to make. On the third panel in the green box.
Yes. Yes, Becky?
Becky, you're going to have to unmute yourself with *6. Sorry about that.
Becky, you're still muted. Can someone tell her the step? Oh, there she is.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm talking about on the third panel, the green box, the ideals that Robert Hale Merriman fought for live on in, and it's essentially an advertisement for the developers and names the names of the businesses that will come there. I don't think that's relevant to his historic interpretation. I think it would be better to use this space to specifically name the ideals that he fought for and a brief definition of fascism and why it so compelled him to do what he did, rather than name businesses that may not be there forever. And I think that's very important and a very important use of the space, and to convey actual information, not an advertisement. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. I did want to ask Joe, there was a comment about the apartment in Berkeley, because Joe, I know you did a lot of research on that, and did you happen to have a date for that, for this photograph of them, of the Berkeley home? Joe, there we go.
Yeah, sorry, I was in the other room. What was the question again?
I know you did a lot of research on Robert Merriman in Berkeley. Did you happen to have a date for the Berkeley house?
Well, it's an apartment building. He was renting one of the apartments there. I think there are like 9 units. It's 2517 Virginia Street, and it's an old building. It's been modernized to the extent to which its historic character has been obliterated, but that's just my opinion. So I don't know the date on that. I'm sure you could find it from the assessor's office in the county of Alameda. I mean, we might have the, I have to go check. I got terabytes of stuff on this.
No, I just thought maybe you might have the date readily available for that photo. But that's
Where did what's the origination of the photo? Who did Barry take the photo?
We might let Vanessa comment on that. Go ahead, Vanessa.
I tried to unmute myself. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I got that image from the director of the Historical Society in UC Berkeley, who gave me permission to use it. I believe it's a very recent photo, so I don't know if the commission would want the date of the original building, but I don't think so. I think you'd want the date the photo was taken, and I can get that easily.
I would also like to comment on this photograph and this building. It was suggested that we put the address of the building on. It is currently an apartment building that has people currently living in it. And I believe that we should leave them alone and not put the address of the Berkeley property on Virginia Street. It's not relevant to Santa Cruz.
Barry, there's an historic plaque on the building that was done. There's a Berkeley E-plaque project.
Oh, I remember the reading about it. Yeah, but do we want people from Santa Cruz going up there to look at the building?
There's, you know, I don't know. There's not much to look at, you know.
I think mostly we don't have room in that caption, so I think adding the address would be pretty difficult.
Okay. I know that you did work under a very strict space constraint here.
Right.
So there's only so much flexibility that you have. So commission, are you ready to move ahead?
Yes.
Vote on the changes. And if you want, we can ask Annie to run through them quickly one more time.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the first change would be change the title for Robert Merriman's yearbook participation to business manager of the yearbook. The second change would be to eliminate the term ramshackle and use an appropriate term that was in use in the 1920s. The third change would be to change the year that the Merrimans came to Santa Cruz from 1923 instead of 1922. The fourth change is to change the caption on the artistic rendering of the bridge to the California Powderworks Bridge at Paradise Park. The fifth change is to change the word scholarship to fellowship. The sixth change is to add a date to the photo of Robert Merriman of 1925. And then I don't know if your commission wants to direct the subcommittee to continue to work with the applicant to ensure that these changes are implemented?
Yes.
Okay.
So after this vote, and if these changes are approved, then all we'll need to do is then at the April meeting, have the subcommittee do kind of a wrap up that the changes were implemented.
Sure, and the direction could be approve the design as submitted, subject to the following changes to be reviewed and finalized with the subcommittee.
Okay.
That makes sense to me. I think Susie and I agree with what we're hearing, and I believe our subcommittee is ready to continue and complete the project.
Okay.
Correct.
So Carolyn and Alverda, Did you hear Annie clearly and understand what we're voting on? Carolyn?
Yes, I got muted.
So you're ready to vote and understand that the subcommittee will be working with MidPen, make sure the corrections are made, the changes are made, and then they will approve and then at the next meeting, it'll be just a summary report to us on the interpretive signage.
Well, let me just clarify, the motion would be approve the historic panels as submitted, because the commission itself has to take an action to approve these. So approve the panels as submitted, subject to the following changes to be reviewed with the subcommittee to ensure the changes are implemented.
Okay. All right, then, are we ready to vote? I need someone to make the motion that Annie just said.
I will, it's Commissioner Miriam, and I will move approval.
Okay. And I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, Carolyn's seconding it. And so we need to have a vote. All in favor? So Commissioner Alberta? Commissioner Orlando, are you there?
You might need to unmute yourselves before you vote.
All right.
I can't see your sheet.
I'm in favor. Could you hear that?
Yes.
Can you repeat that, Alberta?
Say that again, please.
So we're voting on the motion for the Merriman signs.
Okay, and I have voted yes.
Okay, thank you. So Commissioner Miriam?
Yes.
Commissioner Perlman?
Yes.
Commissioner Swift?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips? Yes. Okay, the motion has been approved and passed, and on the April agenda, if you will add that we will get a report from the subcommittee on the implementation of these changes. Okay, all right, that finishes up our business, and we're moving on to new business. So it's to the agenda item 7A is our commission goals. And we went, so,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to take a break right now so everybody can get out, stretch their legs and such. So when we come back, we'll be dealing with new business. The time now is 11:44, so let's do 5 minutes and come back. Thank you.
Thanks. Just to let you all know, I need to go. I can't stick around any longer. But thank you all.
Susie, I can do without a break if that would help you be able to finish up with the items.
You know what? 11:45 is a hard stop for me today.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, Susie.
Thanks.
Thank you, Susie.
All right, so does everyone else want to take a break, or do you want to keep going?
I'm flexible.
Carolyn, you want to take a break or keep going?
I'd like to take a break if that's all right.
Okay.
I just did that in case Susie could finish up, but.
Okay. Ugh. They say it's good every, what, 2 hours?
I think the next item on the agenda is actually, excuse me, Natisha?
What's up?
Natisha, I think we're actually on the item before this, the, with all the photos of the, in the PowerPoint.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's under old business.
Oh, my, must be. Oh, you know what? I was looking at the, sorry, I was looking at the old. Anyway. Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. No, I'm wrong. Sorry about that, Natisha. You were right.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the correct thing to bring up.
Okay, so we're back. So I need to know if Carolyn, Alberta, and Barry are online.
And just a note, I did mute everybody, just as good as the default so we can hear Annie and Linda a little bit better. So you need to unmute yourself to respond.
Okay. So, so Barry's here. Do we have Carolyn here? And Carolyn, it looks like you're muted. And Alberta, looks like you're muted. So I just need to know if you're here so we can open up the meeting and start again.
I'm here.
Okay, Carolyn's here, so Alberta?
I'm here.
All right, then we're calling the meeting back to order at 11:53. Our next topic is commission goals. So we're gonna go through those. Here, just hang on a sec. Here we go. All right. So this topic, the commission goals for 2021, has been moved from old business to new business because we're beginning a new year and we are reviewing our goals with consideration for the rest of the year. I will review each goal and then open it up for the commission to discuss any changes or considerations. At the end of the current list of goals, there will be the opportunity for public comments. After the public comments period, there will be another opportunity for the commission to discuss any new goals for consideration of being added. I will read just the first sentence of the longer goals so we make sure we're in sync on which goal we're talking about. So has each of the commissioners have their list of the goals?
Yes.
All right, so goal number 1, support staff efforts to work with an intern or extern to update the Santa Cruz inventory of historic resources. There is currently no change in status toward implementing this goal due to the current coronavirus environment. So this goal will stay on our list for continued monitoring. Is there any comment from the commissioners about this goal?
Agreed.
Okay. Goal number 2, continue to work on the HRC watch list of properties that are not designated as historic but warrant further future historic evaluation under CEQA when discretionary applications are submitted. And we have a staff report on this goal.
Oh, I just had a few comments that the county does implement the watch list by providing in the county enforce system, the permitting system, a note that the property is subject to additional review for historic purposes when discretionary applications are submitted. And I can provide the watch list at the April meeting so that we can review it and discuss at that time.
Okay. Is there any comments on from the commission on this goal?
Yes, Carolyn again.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, does anybody know how many and from what areas we have houses listed on the watch list?
I believe there are, I'm sorry, I don't have the list with me today, but I believe there are about 8 to 10 properties on the list. And it would include a number of properties that you've identified, Carolyn, in the LaSalle Beach area. There's a cabin in the San Francisco Valley, the Henry Mello House in Watsonville. Those are the properties that come to mind offhand.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Goal number 3, support staff efforts and work with staff to amend the county code to include an incentive-based approach for maintaining and rehabilitating historic resource sources and preventing demolition by neglect. And we have another update status report from staff.
Yes, so we are, as I think the commission is aware, the planning department is working on a sustainability update to the county code and general plan. And in that update, we will be including a new provision to support rehabilitation of historic resources. The amendment would allow additional uses to be considered on a property that are not otherwise allowed in the zone district, where this use would provide an economically viable use for the parcel that would allow for the maintenance or rehabilitation of a designated historic structure. And staff will be bringing this language to your commission for review in April. So we are moving forward with the amendment to provide incentives for maintenance and restoration of historic properties.
Does the commission have any comments on this goal? Okay, goal number 4, revisit the idea of implementing a Mills Act program in the future when there is support for such a program. So there has been no movement on this goal, so it will stay on our list for continued monitoring. Does the commission have any comments? Okay, goal number 5. Expand public outreach and education efforts regarding prehistoric preservation and the work of the HRC in the community. And we have a status report from staff.
Yeah, so in terms of staff efforts in this regard, in addition to supporting the work of your commission to attend public events and help educate the community about historic resources, I know those opportunities may be limited in this year again, but certainly supporting your commission's efforts for public education. The intention is to provide information on the planning department website regarding the tax credit that the state of California approved in California law to provide tax credit for buildings that are listed on the National Register. Unfortunately, the state, I've been monitoring the Office of Historic Preservation website, and they will be providing information when this tax credit becomes available. Apparently, the issue is that the state has not allocated funding for this tax credit. So it's essentially in abeyance right now until there's funding available. I imagine that given the current pandemic and impacts on the budget, that we may not see funding generated for this, in the near future anyway.
Does the commission have any comment on this goal? Okay, number 6, consider training opportunities for the commission for the last year, 2020. And so, and we have a status report from staff.
Yeah, so in the past year, we did make the webinars available to your commission. And in terms of the 2021 year, I'm hopeful that perhaps later on in the year that things will, that live events may be available again where we can attend. I know that's always, I think, more enjoyable. I think you get more out of it when you can attend in person. So I think we can keep our eyes out for that as the year progresses. I had another thought as well, which is that our historic resources consultant, ARG, we could consider asking them to provide a training. We have a limited training budget, but and I looked into it before, where if we had to pay for their travel time as well as training, there wasn't money in the budget for that. But if your commission is interested, perhaps we could see if they might be able to provide an online training at a topic of interest to the commission. One thought I had was that the webinar regarding rural and agricultural sites that I had mentioned previously, that was the California Preservation Foundation was planning to provide, it never occurred. And that training was actually supposed to be provided by ARG, so we could ask ARG, potentially to provide a training on that topic to the commission. So those are my thoughts.
Does the commission have any comments on this goal and the comments Annie made on her suggestions for training? Okay, then this is open for any public comments regarding the 6 goals that we just went through from last year.
Hello, this is Becky Steinbrunner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for going over these goals and for continuing these important issues. I want to just impress upon the commission and staff that the state tax credit is very timely. It is only going to be allowed for 5 years. So what I would ask the commission to do is to work with county supervisors and request their staff to reach out to the State Historic Preservation Commission office and ask for a virtual town hall meeting for our county to make those who have properties that could qualify aware of this and really get the information out there. With those town hall meetings are a very effective way to reach people far and wide during COVID. They're also recorded, and so people who are not able to join can go back at a later time and review the information. So I request that your commission move forward with that issue, working with the Board of Supervisors and their analysts. I also would really appreciate that this county move forward with the Mills Act. It is way past time, and anything that your commission can do to impress upon the Board of Supervisors that this is an important issue Having historic properties are expensive to maintain in the beginning, but to encourage people to preserve them, such as what your commission has seen with the little house that burned in Aptos Village on Bernal. That house has now been fully preserved and restored and sold, and it is a beautiful example of what one can do. That person probably would have really appreciated some economic incentive via the Mills Act or possibly this state tax credit. I would also really look forward to seeing the demolition by neglect code changes coming through in the sustainability plan, and wonder if staff can give us a target date when we might see that. And finally, I would like your commission to do what you can to help spread the county's funding of historical museums. Currently, the county does fund the Museum of Art and History. You've discussed this before, and all small historic museums are struggling. So I urge your commission to write a letter to the Board of Supervisors and request that funding be distributed equitably throughout county historic museums. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky. Is there any other comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. It's Carolyn again. We're talking about demolition. This is probably the time to talk about this, but I'm going to take it anyway. The demolition by neglect. Becky mentioned the Redmond Hero Horror House, and that reminded me that we haven't heard anything about that for a long time. Is there a way we could get that on our agenda soon?
Yes, who would be the person or department that we would have?
Well, I can check in on the status of, any changes to property, and we can put it on the April agenda.
That'd be great.
Okay.
So the status report.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Wait, I have another comment. This is Carolyn again. I wasn't going to say anything. But every time we look at our goals, I feel a little uneasy because I come across agendas and minutes from 10 years ago, and the goals are really pretty much the same. We don't seem to add any, and we never seem to have goals that we can really complete. And I just thought we might want to think about that. I would like to see our goals presented in a way where we could sort of measure progress, and say, oh, we came this much closer to doing this on this goal, and separate those goals from ones that are just sort of always there.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is if there's any new goals for 2021. And maybe as part of this section, since it is a constant agenda item, that maybe we discuss maybe a different format, because the ones that are required to have some kind of public funding that we have no authority for, or any way to get the money ourselves. We don't have a budget. That we maybe separate, maybe have two different types of goals, so that there are other ones, like updating the website, and we were going to work on a brochure to hand out to the public. That would be things that we could reasonably get done and be able to complete.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just throwing that out, as whether that's something we want to include as part of our goals discussion.
Well, I think, it's Carolyn again, I think a good new goal would be to have new goals. I mean, just because we always see the same ones, and it gets kind of discouraging to always have sort of the same goals presented, and we don't. I feel like I'm treading water. You know, we don't seem to go anywhere. So
I absolutely agree.
maybe a new format would help. I don't know.
Well, how does, Alberta and Barry, how do you feel about, as part of our goals discussion, maybe at our next meeting, discuss our format and how we would maybe like to change things and what new goals we would like to add to what we have?
Barry, you're muted, just so you know.
Hi, Perlman here. May I say a few things?
Absolutely.
Okay. When I think of goals, my mind lines up goals with accomplishments. We have a list of goals. I've never really seen a list of our accomplishments. It would be interesting for us to look at last year, a limited year during COVID, of course, but nonetheless, what did we get done? And it may be that when we look at our accomplishments next to our goals, that we get a better understanding of why we leave a goal on here, but yet knowing that we've just accomplished something this year towards that goal or in that category, because there are some that will always stay. But I also agree with Carolyn. It would be nice to be able to see some completion and closure of a goal, take it off the list, replace it with other goals. So I kind of see this as a two-part thing of setting goals and also looking at accomplishments. And maybe that even means looking at things that we couldn't get accomplished that become future goals or priority goals.
Okay. Because I know when Annie and I talk to go through the agenda and talk about order and things, we go through the goals, and over, I'm just gonna say the last 2 years, there have been things that have been completed.
Yes, yeah, sure.
And, you know, and you say, okay, that's completed, and then it's just gone. And so, you know, it isn't there. And you're right, maybe when at the next meeting and we talk about format, maybe we should have a not only goals, but a list of accomplishments for the year, that it's there and we see it.
Well, don't
So
we?
I'm just throwing that out, and we can think about that for our next meeting.
Don't we have a Clg report every year?
Yes, I normally provide that this meeting, but that will be provided in April. And that does give the commission an opportunity to review accomplishments for the year as well.
That would be a perfect opportunity to look at what we've accomplished, and then maybe look at what goals we could match those accomplishments.
Agreed. That's right on the mark. That's where I was going, Carolyn. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, that might help.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like then the idea of what new goals we want to add, changing any of our current goals, will be part of the April meeting agenda.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can also, put a comment in the agenda that, look at reformatting goals, adding goals, providing ways to measure progress, that sort of thing.
Right. Okay, so if there's nothing else on talking about new goals and that sort of thing, let's move on to old business. So number 8A, review of historically designated structures damaged or destroyed in the CCU complex fires. And we have a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Linda. Since last reporting to your commission in October, planning staff have conducted additional site visits to the historic properties that have sustained fire damage. The Alba School, located at 1400 Alba Road in Ben Lomond, served as a school from 1895 through 1942, according to the DPR form, and is locally significant. Unfortunately, the school building has been completely destroyed in a fire. The building official visited the site and reported that no materials remain at the site that can be salvaged. So this certainly is a loss to the community. I saw several news articles, that sort of community recognizes the loss. So
Yes.
So the next site is the Cheese House, located at 240 Swanton Road, north of the city of Davenport. This is the Cal Poly property. The Cheese House was not damaged in the fire. The fire occurred further inland and destroyed other buildings at the site that are not identified as historic resources in the DPR form, the inventory listing form for this site. So,
Annie, this is Carolyn again.
yes.
There's a lot of interference. Maybe everybody could mute themselves while you're reading.
Okay.
Oh, Annie, sorry, I just muted you accidentally. You need to unmute yourself. I muted everyone. Are you there?
If somebody keeps muting me.
Yep, you're still muted, Annie.
But I'm here.
Do you need help? I can come by and help if you need that. Yep, okay.
This is Becky Steinbrunner. I cannot hear anything at all being said. I can't hear anybody talking.
And this
Technical issues.
here either. This is Alberta.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. We had some issues with our new system, but you should be able to hear me now.
So,
Can everyone hear me now?
well, they're muted, so.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, so the second building is the Cheese House, located at 240 Swanton Road. This building, fortunately, this building was not damaged in the fire, and was spared from damage from the fire. The next property is the Giannone Hill property, also known as the Big Creek Pottery property, located at 580 Swanton Road, north of Davenport, at the intersection of Last Chance Road. This site is noted as significant for its association with an important early dairy industry family, the Giannones, who farmed the land for generations, and was likely the first dairy to produce Monterey Jack cheese. The site is also significant, was noted as being significant for the retained architectural integrity of the historic buildings on the site. Unfortunately, the site has sustained significant damage. The main residence shown here, gosh, all of a sudden I'm getting a little teary. The main residence shown here has been completely destroyed in the fire. The next slide, please. This residence has also been completely destroyed. Next slide, please. in the background of this, behind that residence, you can see, barely make out a, outline of the building. That was the cheese house on the property. That building was also destroyed. So the next slide, shows the damage. This is, example of what remained of the second residence on the site, and you can see the chimney standing, which is all that remains of this house. So, so this, the only, I don't have a photo of it, but there is one building that is noted in the DPR form. It has been altered, but it does remain on the site that's included in the inventory discussion. And then the final site that sustained damage is Big Basin Redwood State Park. And I don't have an update from October. As I noted then, the Big Basin Park headquarters were destroyed, as well as the majority of the historic Skyview cabins used as housing for park staff. And these buildings were constructed in the 1930s and were on the National Register. I will keep the commission informed regarding this site as we hear updates. The county does not have permitting authority on the site because it's a state park property. So I will report back to your commission in April on these properties. At that time, I think it would be appropriate to have a discussion whether the Alba school site retains sufficient integrity and historic value to remain in the inventory since the school site was lost. So it may be appropriate to consider removing that site from the inventory. And we can also discuss the appropriate review process for new construction at the Giannone Hill site. As I noted in October, the board has directed that to expedite the review process as much as possible, but of course we still want to comply with, need to comply with conservation regulations. So those are my comments for today. Happy to take any questions or comments from your commission.
So do the commission have any comments or questions for Annie on her report?
As a reminder, you'll need to unmute yourself before you make a comment. I don't see any hand raised, but if you guys have a comment, feel free to speak now.
All right, then, so any public comments?
Hello, this is Becky Steinbrunner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, I couldn't hear very much or understand very much of what was said in the report, regrettably. So I ask that and I couldn't see the slides. I'm coming in by telephone. There's no documentation attached to item 7B about this topic. Could I please request that these slides and the staff report be added to this agenda item so that I can review it? Similarly, in October, and to my recollection, the commission didn't have time to look at this in October, but there was no staff report attached to that item either. So I would very much appreciate some documentation about this. And forgive me if I'm going to repeat what has already been said, but again, I just couldn't understand what was being said. I did hear that the Alba School very sadly burned and nothing is salvageable. I wonder if there is going to be any kind of an interpretive panel put there. And I'm sure this is premature, but I'd just like to put that on the table now. I am aware that the devastation in the Swanton area was extreme, as well as up on Last Chance. And I'm aware that the historic Pacific Railroad was damaged, and also its founder and the founder of Orchard Supply Hardware, Al Smith's house, was also burned to the ground. and I'm wondering if there will be any acknowledgement of those structures in the report. They are of local historic importance and certainly should be noted. And I also want to ask about the status of the Swanton Cheese House. Maybe Ms. Orlando can fill us in on that, but I haven't been up on Swanton Road to see how that is, and I would like an update on that. And the devastation is heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking. So thank you for this report, and again, I ask that it be documented on the agenda item 7B, and the slides be made available for the public. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to make a note too that we are recording this presentation, so I'm assuming this will be made available to the public, and Annie can give you information on that.
Yes, that's correct, Natisha. We are recording, and we will be making the meeting available on the through the agenda for this meeting.
Is there any other comments? Any other questions? All right, then we bring this item back to the commission. Agenda item number 8B. Consider providing draft meeting minutes to the commission within 10 days following the meeting. And we have a report from staff.
Yes, thank you, Linda. So I did discuss the commission's request with county council, and they have strongly recommended that the commission continue to receive the minutes with the meeting materials for the next meeting.
Annie,
Yeah.
It sounds like somebody's cracking nuts or working to crush small rocks or something. There's a repetitive noise that's coming through.
Okay.
Anyway, I can't hear you.
I would just ask everyone to mute themselves while someone else is speaking. That'll probably help with some of the noise issues.
I'll mute myself.
Okay, we're going to try again. Natasha muted other people, so hopefully any background noise is muted out now. So Annie.
Okay. Is this any better, Carla? Oh, she's muted. Okay. Hopefully this is better. I discussed the commission's request to consider providing the draft minutes to the commission 10 days after the meeting date. I discussed this request with county council, and they strongly recommend that your commission continue to receive the minutes with meeting materials for the next meeting. And this is due to concern with potential conflicts with the Brown Act and wanting to ensure that all meeting materials are reviewed in the context of a public meeting. And also, this is the approach followed by other commissions in the county. So I would not recommend that the minutes be provided early. And we do have the meetings recorded and available. So if commissioners or the public wanted to review in detail what occurred at a meeting, that is available. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Commission? Public?
And just a reminder, you need to unmute yourself before you speak.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So moving down to agenda item number 9, Commissioner presentation, informational items. Becky?
Thank you. I'm sorry. It takes me a bit to listen to you and then hit the buttons in time. I just want to first of all, thank you for recording the meetings. My computer system is very limited, and I'm not able to watch any videos. So I can listen to audio, but if there's video attached, I'm not able to review it. And all public libraries continue to be closed. So I just want to make that piece of information available and make the commissioners and staff aware that not all members of the public have full video ability at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky. So number 9, do any of the commissioners have any presentations or information they'd like to share with the other commissioners?
Barry, you're muted right now, just so you know.
Okay, this is Barry, and what I'd like to say is that I appreciate my fellow commissioners, I appreciate our staffer, and all of the county employees who contribute to making us able to actually meet in a reasonably normal fashion during a crisis we've never seen before. So it has to be recognized when criticisms come in about the detailing of delivering the meeting that I think we're pretty privileged to be able to pull this off. And I want to give my compliments to everybody on county staff that contributes to helping our commission make its quarterly meetings remotely. That needs to be recognized. As many criticisms as have come up about how difficult it is to hear, nonetheless, we've gotten through the whole agenda. And so my compliments to all that made it happen.
Thank you, Barry. I would like to make a comment. I would like to get the commission's approval. I would like to add a recurring agenda item, and I would ask Annie where this would go. I would like to, at the end of our agenda, do a recap of the agenda items for the next agenda meeting. So we kind of have a bare bone foundation of what's going to be coming up. And then if there's anything that Annie gets that needs to be added to it, can be then added to it. But we know that these are topics that will be discussed, because I know during the meeting we're saying put this on the agenda, but I for one have a little trouble remembering every single one, even though I'm taking notes here and highlighting and asterisks. So I would like to get the commissioners' comments back, and if they agree, I would like to formally ask Annie to make this part of our regular agenda.
Okay, if I can comment on that, I think that this discussion of the agenda probably needs to be put on the agenda for the next meeting, and then the commission can act at that time. But
okay,
since it's not on the agenda, the commission can really take an action on that today.
So do the other commissioners, that's okay, we'll go ahead and do that and ask that this be an agenda item for our April agenda. To add the agenda item of the agenda for the next meeting.
Right, yeah.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
First of all, right on the mark, Linda, that takes care of the concern that brought up the issue of the minutes being sent out earlier. So this is the great way to deal with the issue of preparing us in advance, knowing what's coming. I completely support you on it. Very good idea.
Thank you.
Second part is, is there any way to modify it so that this becomes an action item that we could work on now, or should we start at our next meeting? Should we do it for today's meeting, or should we wait and start at next meeting?
I think because you said it needs to be voted on by the commission, we start on at the next meeting?
Well, essentially, under the Brown Act, the commission is only supposed to discuss items that appear on the agenda. So this item discussing in addition to the agenda is not on the agenda. So
Very good, very good.
yes, I think it's probably better just to, table discussion to the next meeting and then,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So, let's see. All right, so then moving on to agenda item number 10, written communications. And Annie?
Well, let's see, I provided, the correspondence, from Becky Steinbrunner, from Carol Childers, and then I sent out the, sort of late arriving letter from Judith Steen, to the commission, and that letter has not yet been added to the agenda materials on the website, but it will be added, and made available to the public as well.
Okay.
Could I make a comment?
Certainly, Alberta.
All right, I'd like to go back to number 9. I have, along with Carol and Becky, I am having a terrible time understanding what you're saying too. So I just wanted to make what do you call it? Just an informational item that a book on Davenport has been published. Just called Davenport, and it is available at the bookstore downtown and on Amazon. And if anybody's interested in that area, they might find it interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Alberta. I just wanted to comment that I'm going to talk with Natisha afterwards, and we'll see if we can address some of these audio issues and figure out how to make the sound work better for everyone. We certainly want everyone, the commission and the public, to be able to hear what is being said. So we'll see what we might be able to do to improve the sound for these meetings.
I appreciate everybody's patience and working through this. I know it's been a long 3 hours, and thank you so very, very much. So unless there's any.
Wait. Carolyn again.
Yes.
Under comments, I just wanted to add, there's a house that I've wanted to add to the watch list for a long time. And I did all the research. I got all the stuff. I took pictures of the house, and I keep losing it. I've just not written it up, but I got the name, and it's actually in Barry's district, and it's just down the road from Diane Porter Cooley's house. I mean, it's by the Gizditch Ranch.
That's my neighborhood.
Okay, I know. That's why I think you should know this name, Bruce Zobel.
How do you spell?
Zobel.
Okay.
Okay, when I first was interested in doing his house, he was still alive, and he was quite well known. And but since then, I think maybe 3-4 years ago, he died. And of course, now there's these wonderful obituaries about him. So it'd be easy to get the background that we need. And the house is gorgeous. I took pictures of it, and it's still a little ranch kind of house. Diane owns it. And so she takes care of it, and it's in great condition, and it's a little Victorian. So I want to get that house on the list. And I just thought, if I told somebody, if I told you guys, then you have his name at least.
Okay, I'm planning to have the watch list on the agenda in April, so yeah, we can talk about it then too.
Yeah. But this man graduated from Watsonville High School in 1938, and I have his picture in the yearbook. So eventually I'll get it done, and if I don't, then Barry will have to do it.
Well, I'll encourage you to get as much done as you can.
Okay.
All right. Well, if that's it, then,
I have one final comment. This is Becky Steinbrunner.
yes, Becky.
I just want to again thank you all for your good work. I want to make it clear that when I feel like I'm characterized as nothing but a naysayer and a critic, and that's not my intention. I see things, I have questions, and I ask questions. That's not necessarily criticism, and I just really want to impress upon you that I am very interested in seeing historic preservation in this county improve and become more of a center, spotlight center on how this county operates. I'm very supportive of historic preservation and feel that it needs to be carried through and financially supported. So I don't want to be overly critical, and I'm not trying to be overly critical. I'm just asking questions. So that being said, I also am very grateful for the local articles that I'm seeing about historic preservation and stories in our papers. Commissioner Swift, I very much appreciate and enjoy your pieces in the Times Publishing Group papers. And I also am enjoying the regular Monday column by Ross Gibson in the Santa Cruz Sentinel. Commissioner Swift, I've seen your letters to the editor correcting some things for accuracy, and I appreciate that because you are spot on. These are often used as pieces of documentation going forward, and they need to be accurate. So thank you all for your good work, and I just want to wish you all a Happy New Year. I would like to try to purchase for perhaps Ms. Murphy a headset where maybe the microphone would be closer to her mouth, and I think that would eliminate a lot of the echo that is difficult for many of us to hear. And I'm not being critical. I'm trying to come up with a creative solution, and I'm willing to purchase a headset for you and give it to you in the interest of all of us being able to hear what you have to say, because I appreciate you and what you have to say is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. So if there's nothing else, then I am proposing someone make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 12:44. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're done. Thank you. Thank you so much, Natasha, for all of your help with this.
Thanks, everyone. Have a happy new year.
Bye-bye. Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy
See
New
you
Year.
April.
How do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? Is the meeting over?